Welcome to another episode of Tales from the Tables with your host, Rob Bradley.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I'm your host, Rob Bradley, and I'm joined with my two co-hosts, James Burrows and JC.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Nice weekends all round, was it?
Yeah. Lovely weekend. Yeah.
Likewise here, more improv, a pool party. That was fun.
A pool party. Oh, okay.
A pool party, indeed.
Oh, I see. This is the thing. I'm not jealous. I don't get jealous much about Americans or America, but when it comes to the fact that you guys all have swimming pools and you all have access to a pool of some kind, it's like you just you can just rock up and you all have barbecues and stuff.
Yep.
How was it? Was it good fun?
It was amazing. It was exactly that. If you don't have a pool, I grew up without one, but you always know a person with a pool. So we had that. We had a lovely barbecue, hamburgers and hot dogs. Very
fantastic,
traditional Yank sort of day. So it was good.
Yeah. Good stuff. Well, I actually got my partner's been away for the last couple of days. She's been up north. Yeah, and while she was up there, I kind of found myself going down a YouTube rabbit hole of barbecuing. I really got into it. I watched this video of Dave Grohl being interviewed by Hot Ones. I don't know if you guys have seen it, when they're eating really hot chicken wings. They progressively get hotter and hotter and hotter. But the interviewer, his questioning is fantastic, and him and Dave Grohl really hit it off. And Dave Grohl was basically talking to him about how he really got into barbecuing when he broke his leg and he had nothing to do for like 6 months. So he just thought, right, I'm just going to figure out barbecuing. I'm going to, get down to basics and figure it all out. And when he did, he then went out into LA and set up a barbecue and started feeding all the homeless. And now he's got his own barbecue business where he just goes around the country feeding the homeless people. It's just fantastic.
Well, it's nice that you saw that and were like, oh, I could help the homeless, but actually, what I'm taking away from this is that I really need to barbecue.
Well, you got to start somewhere. I can't expect to just feed them, winny ninny. I've got to be able to cook.
That's true. Yeah, you want to be able to feed them well.
Very true.
Exactly. So, what did you get up to, James?
Well, I had a lovely weekend. There was a festival in Norwich all weekend from Friday through Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday, I managed to get there. Had a lot of nice street food, drinks from different places, and there's lots of cool and interesting things to see. So cool. Shout out to Knight's Tower, who were doing medieval combat demonstrations and getting people involved. So yeah, I saw a bit of that. I talked to the guy who owns the company. It's really cool. Said sort of what they're doing there at some games conventions. So potentially our listeners will bump into them at some point.
How fun is that?
So are they like a LARPing company, are they?
No, so they're I can't remember the name of the actual combat sport where you like
battle reenactment.
Yeah, that's that sort of stuff. Yeah, but like the competitive,
is it more like
like HEMA. Thank you.
Martial arts.
Yeah,
is that what it is? Okay, yeah. Sweet.
But they also do go to stuff like schools because they've got these trebuchets they set up with. What he was saying is they can set it up with like watermelons, so you get that nice. You can watch that nice splat impact of it destroying. You can also pack them full of like wet sponges, and you can have a team being attacked by these trebuchets, and you can have one team sort of setting up the trebuchet and attacking the team at the far end.
How cool is
doing
that?
damage.
But
yeah,
I think they said they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're at Norwich Games Con, I believe, which is in a couple of weeks' time in August, and they're working with some D&D games there where they're going to sort of incorporate some of the combat from the D&D game, where they're like, okay, get suited up. Here's a weapon. We're going to talk you through a bit of combat, and you're going to settle this difference person to person.
Exactly.
Oh, excellent. That's pretty cool.
Amazing. Yeah. That sounds like a blast.
What was the actual festival you were at, James?
If I could remember the name of it, that would be really good. There was a lot going on. There was like live music. I believe it's some sort of like summer festival for Norwich, but there was Toast, which was a poetry company that were great. They were performing on the main stage outside City Hall. There was another stage set up in one of the parks of the city. And I believe Sunday, we just missed it, but there was a rubber duck race where people decorated rubber ducks, and you sort of dump them wholesale into the river and then watch them go down.
Oh, wow, great. Oh, but yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
just bars and just live music in all the streets around the city centre. Yeah, it's incredible. It's really nice. Like there was so many people out. It was a really nice sense of like community. So it was really
Oh,
cool.
that's good.
And you're not absolutely knackered after that kind of weekend.
Oh, shattered. Yeah.
Yeah, right. That's the thing, isn't it? Yeah, I do love a good festival. I've not been to a festival for bloody years actually. And it's funny because we've got wilderness just over from where we live. There's wilderness every year, and you can hear it literally. Like you can just hear the buzz of this festival and how much you can feel the fun that people are having all over there while you're like mowing your grass. And you're like, people having fun. Damn them. Yeah, exactly. Do you guys have any games last week or games of the weekend?
2 this week. I've got one tonight and I've got one Friday this week.
Was it your last one for Keys of the Golden Vault, isn't it?
Yes, my last one for Keys of the Golden Vault. So actually, this won't be released for a day or two, so I could spoil everything.
Yeah, you can tell us.
Yeah. Well, it might get released by tomorrow. So Tuesday.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. It's tonight. We're all good.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Just don't give them the link until
no, yeah, it's fine. So they are currently in the Feywild at a gala party trying to steal a necklace. But basically, all the items that they've so far been stealing, they've been hired by this old crime boss that they have connections to. And bit by bit, they're slowly starting to piece together all the things that he's wanting them to steal seem to be related, and they don't trust that he's going to do the right thing. So what they've already done is taken one. And the crime boss has been quite understanding and said, yeah, of course, like if you don't feel comfortable giving it to me, I won't pay you for the job. I hope that's okay. And they've sort of had to swallow that. Yeah, but they hid this book they took with a faction, another group of smugglers that one of the party members, a bugbear called Vanesti, was friends with. And what they're going to find is when they finish this last heist, is they're going to go back there, and they're going to discover that that entire faction of smugglers has been horribly murdered by by their patron as he searches for the book, which they've actually taken from the camp, but already. So it's not going to be there. So that'll be disappointing for him and probably make the bad guy a little bit angrier by the time they get to him. So yeah, it'll be fun. So they'll be trying to prevent him from getting his hands on the last couple of items as he's finally reached his breaking point and can't take being defied any longer. And then that'll be the end. And then hopefully
that is
yeah.
That sounds like pure party consequence. Amazing. Yeah.
So, but then we're taking a break, and then we're hopefully coming back because one of our players is getting married, and so in between now and then, which is like a month or so's time, he's focusing on the wedding because he's a grown up and making a sensible, wise choice to not anger his soon to be wife.
They're not playing D&D at their wedding ceremony. What is this?
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah. Dreadful.
Yeah, but I'm going to that, so that's really, it's really cool. It'd be nice.
Lovely.
To see everyone.
Oh, congrats. Yeah. And congrats to them, of course.
Yeah, massive congratulations to them both. And JC, do you have any games coming up, or any games that you've been running this week?
I do have some games coming up. I did have some games over the weekend. I had another game of Wayfinders, which is the teen campaign that I run. They are currently exploring sort of a misty realm called Darkon, which is one of the many domains of dread from Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft and obviously some previous Ravenloft source books before that.
Cool.
At the moment, they are dealing with... so basically, they found... Van Richten himself, which is an NPC that I'm controlling in the game, and I'm basing him very much off of I'm forgetting the name right now, but that German filmmaker and actor. Why?
Is he an awful human being?
Werner Herzog.
Yeah, Werner Herzog.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Thank you. No, he's not an awful human being, but his. He's. I would like to see the baby. He has that sort of very dry, raspy German voice. But at the moment, he's unconscious and he's going through a thing. So the Wayfinders are trying to help him while at the same time trying to escape the realm and help one of their other friends and get back home. So they're dealing with the Kargat, which is this sort of underground secret police, but it's controlled all by this fantastically violent vampire. And so it's very gothic. It's very what you would expect out of Ravenloft. Up next, and I believe at the start of next sesh, they are making their way over to this abandoned institute called the Broadslava Institute. And the book only gives you just a couple of kernels of fun information. But in my sort of campaign, the Broadslava Institute has been abandoned for a couple of years after some very weird magical anomaly happened there. And as a result, all the former students and teachers and denizens of it have been converted into bizarre monstrosities and aberrations. And I'm pulling a lot of stuff from like Bloodborne ideas and having all these like
Great.
degenerate slime scholars moving around the university. Wayfinders, don't listen. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of hopefully a blast. We'll see how they manage to cock it up. We'll find out.
There's always a way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
One of my wayfinders ages ago, I'm talking literal in actual terms of time, found a scroll of Summon Tarask, which is infamous for having popped up in the Icewind Dale Rime of the Frostmaiden campaign. One of my players found this ages ago, this scroll of Summon Tarask, and he constantly threatens to activate it. No matter what the situation is, if he's just a little bit pissed, the scroll of Summon Tarask starts peeking out of the bag and being like, this is a thing, this can happen. I can just drop the Tarask on the whole world and this whole city, and just letting you know. So that might happen. We don't know. I'll let you guys know when that happens.
I've got for my game tonight, I've got a player with a deck of many things, because it's like the end of a session. He's like, just so you know, I'm drawing at every opportunity. And unfortunately, what he doesn't know is I put together a deck of many things that is like 90% horrible stuff. And then 10% is the best, the best the deck has to offer.
Can you give us an example?
There's the one that pulls your soul from your body and traps it.
The void
in the void, right? Yeah, the void cards. Yeah, that's pretty bad.
Oh man.
Is it a bad thing that I have a physical version of the deck of many things like on hand that I can just grab?
A
and
really
show my
pretty one
players
as well.
anytime?
Wow. Just good to go. Just in the back pocket. There it is.
Yep.
Bam. Any
Right
social
here.
situation you find yourself in, pick a card. Pick a card. Pick a card.
How about you, Rob?
Yeah, I had a game at the weekend. I had a game with a group at the Emmanuel Church in Bicester. I actually played with them back in September, and two of them are actually pregnant at the moment, Naomi and Megan. Yeah, both of them actually looking like they're ready to drop. I think Naomi's baby's actually due next month, in fact. So we've all had that one party, right, haven't we, where they want to do the right thing no matter what. Dead set on doing the right thing, and this party was no exception. So we're an hour into the game. It's a 6-hour one-shot, and they've realised that the world is covered in famine. There's crops dying. There's fish that are poisoned. It's horrendous, right? And they're in water deep, and they're talking to a fisherman. The fisherman's like, "Oh, I want to go out into the deeps. And I want to capture like the big fish and stuff. Where I know that the poison, where the fog that's being produced by these vampires isn't affecting the fish. And I want to get out there and I want to get them." They were like, "Look, okay, fine," because they wanted his ship anyway. So they need to get to Baldur's Gate, and so in order to get his ship, they were like, "Okay, cool. Well, look, here's what we'll do. We'll go out and we'll try and kill whatever it is that's stopping you from going out into those deep waters." And he was like, "It's a kraken." And they were like, "Cool, let's go do it." So there's 7 of them, all level 12. They all go out to get the kraken. As they're out there, they suddenly realise, well, one of them is wise enough to roll an Arcana check, that the kraken is a pretty formidable force to be reckoned with. And they very much discover that this kraken could probably destroy their boat in one foul swoop of its tentacle. So they look at me, and I'm like, "Okay, so you guys have got an option. We can play this out. Bear in mind we're an hour in, and there's probably going to be a lot of deaths. This kraken's probably going to destroy the boat in one go. Or we could literally just press the rewind time clock button and go back to the dock and go back to the decision that you just made and make a totally different decision, most likely the complete opposite decision." So, yeah, but it was great. And then
sometimes you really need like a big break in the consequences of stuff. Like there's nothing to do but go back in time, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was just, I mean, we're an hour into a 6-hour game, and they're about to go up against like this monstrous creature that is like, like a formidable bad guy. And I was like, maybe it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of those things
Yeah.
you put in place so you're like, this is but don't cross this boundary. Like you're not supposed to go here. Like you can. Like I'm not going to necessarily stop you. But yeah, it's a soft boundary that potentially will kill your character. So how about we rethink this thing?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I really honestly thought they weren't going to go and try and defeat this kraken. I thought they were going to be like, okay, well, we'll try and like, maybe go around it or something. Or,
Oh yeah, that sounds real serious. Let's look elsewhere. Right.
It does sound like a major plot point. Yeah.
Yeah, I am personally scarred by krakens. I have a whole history with them. When I started getting back into D&D at the start of 5th edition, and I was playing Storm King's Thunder, we had played a year-long campaign, and one of the enemies of that module is a kraken, and I died to it last session of the game. It was very intense. So I still, every now and then I'll have that PC of mine show up as an NPC in a game just for a brief little cameo. But he's all watery themed, and he's been brought back by this, evil spellcasting kraken that's in that game. But yeah, they're intense. They are no joke. So
yeah, right.
Good call, Rob. Good call on rewinding time.
Yeah. I probably shouldn't have put. I literally thought, okay, if I just stick a kraken here, there's no way they're going to go out to deep sea to like try and get some fish. But they were like, no, let's go. So, okay, all right, cool.
Expect the unexpected, right?
Exactly. So, James, is there any RPG news for this week?
Yes, well, you'll be unsurprised to hear that there is more Baldur's Gate news, as usual. So they did their final panel from Hell this week, I think Friday, where they gave a load of new information, some cool little tidbits more than anything, and showed some more gameplay and sort of how relationships develop in the game. So it would appear that pretty much everyone is romanceable depending on who you're playing. So that's if you're
everyone,
pretty much everyone. There was a very strange cutscene where I don't know if the character is a werebear or a druid who can change into a bear, but I think he loses control. So I would say werebear probably more than anything. But you start romancing him, and he changes into this bear in front of you.
That sounds like Druid Halson.
And then and then he like changes back.
I think that's our Druid Halson.
And then has to apologize
and
be
be
like,
with the long hair, big muscular elf. That's Daddy Halson. I mean, sorry, that's Druid Halson.
Yeah. And well, the options you have speaking back to him after that happens are varied and comprehensive, I would say. You can tell him that you enjoy his bear form and get him to carry on with that. So that's interesting.
Boy,
God's sakes!
But
right.
Well, we'll go back. We'll go to the next bit of druidy news. So druids and casters who can speak with animals will be able to talk to every single animal in the game who I think they've said is fully voiced. So
wow,
insane amount.
And there's only a rabbit in the game.
Yes, there's one single rabbit.
There's one single rabbit.
There's actually definitely a squirrel in the game as well, because one of the cutscenes they show where you're romancing someone, the squirrel sat in a tree awkwardly watching you. Which I suppose if you could talk the squirrel up,
drops the nut in shock.
Yeah, just like drops his little. So there's that, but there's the sheer amount of like effort they put into making sure that you can like fully utilize all the abilities of the classes. So yeah, if you're a druid, you're not going to be there's certain animals you can talk to, but apparently that it will be that there are certain quests that you can only do if you have the ability to talk to animals, because they will be the quest givers, and if you can't talk to them or no one else in your party can talk to them, you're not gonna be able to find out about them. And I think that's really cool, because it'll like encourage multiple playthroughs, and it's really cool that like choosing your class and stuff will definitely impact the game. And I know some people don't enjoy sort of being locked out of certain quests and stuff, but it seems like there's so much, and for it to fully reflect like the character that you've built, like it makes sense for that to happen. There won't be major like plot lines that will have huge, wide, like reaching effects. I wouldn't have thought, but yeah, it's cool. I think it's cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's great. Is it totally open world as well?
I am not 100% sure. It's like areas you go through, and it's sort of.
I was going to say, yeah.
So you're given a fair bit of areas to explore, but no, there's very designated paths. You don't really it's not true open world per se.
Mm.
If you guys have played Larian's previous games, it's very similar in structure in terms of the map to those. Yeah.
Okay, it's a little similar to like Dragon Age, maybe the first one and the third one more than the second one.
Yeah.
Where you sort of got like areas of the map you travel to. So there's like the cities, and then there's like this particular bit of the forest and stuff like that. And you can there's like you can explore a section of that within each area, and but yeah, they were showing off the character customization, and there has been a ton more detail you can now add to characters after. There was already quite a lot of customization in the character builder. They've completely revamped the character builder for release, and it may have come out for in the last update as well. But I think they're still saving some stuff back for the final release. So there's more scar customization, so you can add different scars. They've added a lot more hairstyles. They went through the list, and my god, it's huge. So I don't think there's a single hairstyle that you'll struggle to find in there. Some new hair coloring stuff, so you can have I think up to 3 different hair colors all intertwined in various combinations.
Jesus.
So yeah, you can.
So what you're saying is we're all going to spend at least 8 hours on character customization and leave it at that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's the first. Yeah, so if we stream this, and it's going to be the first stream is just going to be us making our characters, painstakingly choosing. Apparently, with every hairstyle, they didn't do it as if like it's not like Lego hair where you just sort of like plop it on. They like do it strand by strand, which is insane.
That's insane.
Yeah,
should be Lego.
And exactly. That's what the old Mass Effect hair, where it's all solid in one piece, like a helmet. Exactly. So similar to the hair coloration, tieflings' horns. They can be 2-tone colored as well, so you can have like the tips.
Oh my god!
This color, and then
that's pretty cool.
So yeah, the 2-tone horns are pretty cool. Loads more beards for the dwarves. I saw them making a dwarf woman with this lovely big bushy beard with braids and stuff in. So that'll make people happy.
Canonically accurate.
Yeah. That's something that people are very passionate about. So they've added some other customization. So piercings are in, so earrings, nose piercings, stuff like that. There's some pretty cool looking ones, especially for sort of elves and tieflings who've got that longer ear, and they sort of seem to have some more options. Tattoos, more tattoos added in for all your barbarians and just anyone else who thinks they look cool. So quite a lot, I imagine. The only thing I didn't see is them adding tattoos to Dragonborn, so I don't know if that's a possibility. I'd imagine so.
Question. Can you put ink under dragon scales? I suppose is the question.
Maybe there's a way to color the individual scale, but then they shed.
Right.
Is that a problem?
Nice.
Too bad. Do Dragonborn shed? They're not real lizards.
Oh, we don't know. Right.
There's probably like
do you ever find dragon skin knocking around? I don't think you do.
Right.
Like the world of D&D.
Jerry was here. This is his scales.
Yeah, right.
Oh, he's been putting on the weight. You can tell from the stretch in this.
Oh, Jerry.
Poor Jerry. But so also with the Dragonborn scales, that can also be 2-tone. But what they've added is for things like the white Dragonborn is there's like a pearlescent effect you can get on the scales, and it looks very pretty. I won't lie. It's very cool.
Okay. Are you gonna make a white Dragonborn, James?
I wasn't really thinking about it. I knew I was going to make a Dragonborn, but seeing the effect, I'm sort of very tempted by a white Dragonborn. Yeah. I think that may be the way to go. Yeah, get rid of the flame breath. We'll go with ice
in September when it comes out for the PS5.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's fine. They'll have got rid of all the bugs by then, hopefully.
Oh yeah, right.
Not that I've seen people complaining about bugs so far. So fingers crossed that won't be an issue anyway. Okay, so the other big thing is that you'll be able to reset levels and change multi-class selections, change subclass selections during the game. So I don't think you can go back and change your initial class, but what you can do is change a multi-class option you've had. There will be apparently a character in the game who you can, I think, pay to do this for you.
In case you regret making that barbarian.
Yeah,
that you
exactly.
were so keen on because it sounded funny, and now you realize it doesn't really work.
Barbarian.
Barbarian.
That might work.
I knew it.
It's a really angry performer.
Just run to the enemy banging a drum. Yeah, I think. Well, yeah, I imagine stat-wise very difficult to make work, but
yeah,
I think it'd be quite funny. But yes, so without having to, so they didn't want you to have to restart with a whole new character every time you wanted to make some changes. So yeah, so they've allowed you to do that.
Great.
Next up is that there are going to be hirelings that so 12 hirelings, one for each class, which you can then hire to be in your party if you manage to kill all the party members that you recruit as it goes through, or if they leave.
Oh, right.
And apparently that is very possible to do.
Okay.
Hey, James, you wouldn't happen to know if there is ways to resurrect those characters in the game, right? Because I'm one of those people where, like, if something bad happens to one of my characters, I need to go reload a previous save or something. And I know that's not quite how it's going to work with this one. So I'm like, where's my scroll of Revivify? I need that.
I feel like, Revivify, I think, is going to be in the game. So if you've got a cleric, it's going to be easier. I imagine there will be temples you can go to, although I haven't read anything specific about that. I don't know if they're going to try and make the deaths longer lasting to try and add some more impact to them.
Sure.
Yeah. Which is cool. I get it's a video game, and it's obviously they're not characters like in a D&D game where it's like a player character and you've got a real person sat there like, well, I really like that character. I didn't want them to be dead yet. So yeah, I imagine there will be a way to bring them back, and I can't see in combat. I think you'll have to do pretty badly for them to properly be dead, unless you're playing on the hardest difficulty, which apparently is what it's like if a DM is actively trying to kill you. Apparently, that's what they've said.
I saw
that's
that.
how it's described. That's
the description for that difficulty. Yeah. So
props are cracking in the game.
Yeah.
There you go. Deal with this.
And this little fishing boat that we can take out to find it. Great.
Exactly. Just give you a small fishing boat and just tell you, off you go. Good luck. So finally, the last bit of customization is that you will be able to do things like find clothes dye and dye clothes to the colors you want. So you're not going to be stuck finding a really cool bit of armor or like robe or whatever and be like, well, the stats for this are really helpful, but it looks shit with what I'm wearing. So you can make those changes, and you'll have like different sets of clothes for different environments. So you'll have, at the very least, they said camp clothes. So when you go for a long rest or a short rest and you set up camp, you'll have like a little set of clothes that you automatically change into to wander around your camp in. It's quite cool, like bed clothes.
Very cool. I love that stuff. I remember when World of Warcraft came out with transmogrification, where you could change your clothing to look like other clothing that you found, because inevitably you'd loot this awesome, badass chest piece with horns coming out of the shoulders, and then you're like, yes, this piece that I've been looking for and I've seen in the promo artwork forever. And then 5 minutes later, you go accept a quest, and it's like, this green tunic has 10 times better stats.
But it's a horrible green. It looks like snot. I don't want to wear this.
Yeah, it looks like snot on my chest.
So the final bit of Baldur's Gate news is the Baldur's Mouth, the newspaper for Baldur's Gate that is going to be in the game. So not only will it report on you as you complete quests, it will change how people react to you in the city as they read the paper and are informed by the newspaper. But what they said is that one of the options is that you can break into the newspaper and plant your own stories about yourself to influence what people think about you.
Wow, great. Propaganda.
Yeah, exactly. So you could do a real good PR campaign for yourself if you need the people of the city to like be on board with whatever horrible thing you're doing for playing an evil character.
Oh my gosh.
Brilliant.
So very much. Yeah. That is all the Baldur's Gate news I have.
Rock on.
Yeah.
Great. Any other news?
No, there's been quite a quiet week, TTRPG wise.
Yeah.
I was reading about a new RPG that I think released in 2021 that I have now completely lost the my notes on. So
Oh
yeah,
no!
but in other we can cut that. So in other nerd news, so what I have news wise this week is just my maybe slightly controversial enjoyment of The Witcher season 3, and I don't know if it's just because I'm sad that Henry Cavill's leaving and trying to wring every last bit of enjoyment out of him playing Geralt that I can. But I think it's nothing like the books, and the books are great, and
True.
the story is
Right.
probably better.
They're very different things at this point. Yeah,
they're very different things. But if I went into watching season 3 of The Witcher with very little knowledge of any of the books before it, I think it looks good. I think it's acted well, and as a fantasy series, I think it's really good. Like, it's a fun thing to watch. Like, it's not sure it's not like Oscar worthy, but it's not the terrible dross
It
that
is
a lot
what
of
it is,
people.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
it's not
It
bad.
is what it is.
Are
And-
people panning the last season?
Yeah,
I haven't heard
yeah.
that. Really?
But I think
I've not seen any of it.
it's good. I've not seen
Yes,
what is
I
in
haven't-
all
I
3
haven't quite
seasons.
started the new season, but I have been a long time Witcher fan, even technically before the third game came out, and have cosplayed as Geralt. I made my own Gwent deck and play the video game obviously a million times. So I was very, very impressed actually by the release of the show. Yes, the books are very, very different. That doesn't mean it wasn't good, and there was a lot of homage paid to Geralt from the books, and
Yeah.
even a little bit to the voice actor who voiced Geralt in the video games. So
Wow.
I found it pretty good. I can't wait. Can't wait for season 3 with your glowing review there, James.
I think it's the best The Witcher's
Critics be
been
damned.
since the first couple of episodes which I thought were very good as well. I think it's probably some of the best Witcher TV.
Cool.
Okay.
All right.
Great.
Looking forward to it.
I have to check it out. I've literally never watched one episode.
Oh, it's
Start at the
definitely
beginning.
worth a watch. Like,
I will.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I will.
It's I feel like the world of The Witcher, and there is a Witcher TTRPG out there. One of our DMs runs a
He
Witcher
has,
TTRPG, I think, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Mike?
Yeah.
I think it's Mike.
Mike did for a little while. Yeah, he's not
for a
doing
little
it
while.
anymore.
All
Though, I
right.
think.
I was
Yeah,
always
doing
planning
it.
on like trying to sit in and see how the RPG plays out. But the world of The Witcher is always it's really, really fascinating to me. Not just because the threat of monsters is much, much more visceral, I think, than D&D. D&D is chock full of heroes and very powerful magic that will pop out into the world and deal with these monsters on the regular. But not only are the monsters from the Witcher world based in a lot of like Eastern European folklore, and there are some truly terrifying things out there like botchlings and stuff that just prey on like parables and familial values and stories and things like that. It was just horrendous, but creative and amazing. But there's also very few people qualified to deal with these things. And on top of that, sort of very threatening world where witchers are kind of a necessary evil, part almost monster themselves. You also have a lot of really good politics built into the story. So it's got that Game of Thrones juice where there's competing factions and cities that are warring with one another. And in the middle of it all is Geralt, who doesn't really want to get caught up in all these world events. He's just a witcher, but inevitably he does.
Yeah. Okay, sweet. I have to definitely check it out.
Also, the books are very good, and I know Rob, you've read all of the Wheel of Time, so you can get through books. I know you can. There's a lot less of them.
I used to consume them for breakfast, pretty much. But I
I couldn't get through the first couple of Wheel of Time books. I think I tried 3 times on separate occasions, and I was like, I've heard this gets better, but it can't hold my interest, and I never got through it.
I went audiobook to get through the first few.
I think that's kind of why I'm going now with a lot of the stuff. I'm reading the Final Empire, and I read that, and then I go in the car and I listen to it, and then
Mm.
then I update where I'm in the book, and I'm literally like going storming through it.
Whoa, that's
It's one of
cool.
the functions of Kindle I really like. If you've got the Kindle app or a Kindle, you could read on the Kindle, and then Audible will update to the same place in the book that you were reading, go to the same page, and so you can like switch between the two formats
I
really,
had
really
no
easily.
idea they did that. That's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's really cool.
Yeah.
So JC, you've got the community update. What's been going
yes,
on
I
in our
do.
Rolldark games from last week?
All right, so we have 2 submissions this week, one from Seb and one from Jordan. I'm going to start off with Seb's. Here's what he wrote. I had a good story from a game for the podcast. Well, in one recent game, one of my players who's playing a technomancer fighter, essentially one of my homebrews, aka Seb's homebrews, I'm reading as him, wanted to see if she could use a warpstone shard to power up her homunculus workbench and familiar. I advised it would be a difficult check and could end badly, so naturally, she rolled a nat 1 on her technomancy check. The resulting explosion of arcane energy and shards of torn apart robot almost killed the entire party in one go. Since then, the party has elected to babysit her character and never let her get anything potentially explosive in her hands again. A classic sort of thing to happen. I had that happen with I think it was our very first, maybe our second, but I'm tempted to say it was our very first session of one of my very first Rolldark campaigns. We had a wild magic sorcerer. They cast a spell. The barbarian was standing right next to them. The rest of the party was right there, and they rolled the result that had a fireball goes off centered on yourself. Nobody died, but we got real close. That was a classic bit. Oh yeah, fun times. Okay. All right. This next submission is from our new Rolldark DM, Jordan, who hosted a Stag Do D&D one-shot game this past week. Here's a summary of what went down. Important to this story is how Jordan introduced a unique twist and a few of his own homebrew rules for this one-shot. At the beginning of the adventure, the players discovered that their character sheets were mostly blank, save for their race and equipment. Unbeknownst to them, the story revolved around their characters having embarked on a stag do the night before. Consequently, the characters woke up with severe hangovers, struggling to recollect anything from the previous night. As the players progressed through the adventure, battling various monsters in a coliseum, they had to overcome challenges and regain their memories, including their stats, class, and abilities. To make the game more stag-centric, Jordan implemented rules such as taking a drink if the stag took damage, and 2 drinks if he fell unconscious. He also had a unique stag inspiration mechanic, where the other players could grant the stag a re-roll on any d20 roll, and the stag himself got a special golden d20, where all the results were changed to a critical hit. But if the die landed on an actual natural 20, then something extraordinary would happen. So, as the players went through the various Colosseum challenges, fighting off harpies and other monsters as they slowly regained their memories and skills, they finally reached the final climactic encounter, a wyvern. After a fierce struggle with the stag player character already badly wounded, the stag used his golden d20, aided by various stag inspiration rolls from his friends, to finally land a natural 20. He launched the party's fighter into the air towards the wyvern, defying all laws of physics, and the fighter severed the wyvern's head in one single slice, both of them falling to the floor to the deafening eruption of cheers from the Colosseum's crowd, and the beautiful bride-to-be rushing down from the stands to embrace the stag. Overall, an epic end to a no doubt memorable encounter. Well done, Jordan! And for any players listening, that's the kind of epic experience you can expect from a Rolldark GM for stag do's, birthdays, or just a general night of fun with friends.
Absolutely. There you go. There you go. Yeah, great.
James, you have thoughts, clearly.
Oh, I've done stag do's before, and they're great fun. And yeah, if you can incorporate drinking games into them as well, even better.
That's the best part. Yes,
I love the stats and the hangover-esque take on it. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's not something I've done before, but something I will definitely have to try. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, the gold D20 for the stag is very cool. That's an interesting idea.
That was a cool one. Special stag inspiration. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really good. Cool. So we discussed in the last podcast about the RPG horror stories Reddit thread, didn't we?
Yeah.
And I think since then, James, you've been doing a little bit of swimming around in that thread, haven't you? Just
Yeah.
having a look around, what's
Yeah,
going
I've
on.
got a couple.
So-
I've got a couple.
Cool. Cool.
So yeah, I'll get started. This is a user fingerless fighter. It's a throwaway account, and it is based on the story, so that gives you a slight insight into where we're going with this.
Right.
So
There we go.
the title of the post is GM thinks player with oversized sword ruins his game world, takes a finger as revenge. So background. This is the background for the story. When I was in college, some friends introduced me to D&D. I instantly got hooked, and the group I was in was fabulous. We played many different systems / campaigns for the 3 to 4 years we were together. Fast forward to 2016, and I had just graduated and moved to a different state for work. After a few months of settling in, I decided that I wanted to try and find a new group. One day at work, I mentioned that I wanted to get back into D&D to a coworker, Billy, and he mentioned that a game he was GMing just wrapped up. He went on to say that he was interested in starting up a new game with other co-workers and asked if I would like to join. I accepted, as he seemed like a good guy, and I honestly felt more comfortable playing with co-workers than people I didn't know. After asking
Fair enough.
around, yeah, exactly, yeah, that makes sense. It is a lot easier to play with people that you know. After asking around, Billy and myself managed to recruit enough people to start a game. Okay, so that's a background for the story. This is the story.
Mhm.
The group assembled at GM Billy's apartment for a session 0. We were playing Pathfinder, and most of the players were brand new to TTRPGs, aside from Billy and his wife. Everyone I didn't already know from work seemed friendly. Billy advised us of his rules, which included things to make sure that players stayed comfortable and weren't thrown into any kind of uncomfortable / uncontrollable situation. The main rule, however, that was we could only build characters using the core rulebook, since the majority of the table was new players. Okay, cool, no issues there. I will admit I was a bit bummed as I had already had a class picked out, but no worries, core keeps things simple. The night ended with Billy handing us pre-built character sheets to run a short combat session. Overall, I left the first session feeling positive. The next day, myself and the rest of the players created a group chat to start working on character concepts. I decided that since they were new, I would wait until the others had picked to fill out what was needed. A few days later, everyone had picked, and we ended up with a monk, a cleric, a bard, a sorcerer, who was Billy's wife, and I decided I was going to play a fighter. A few days before session 1, I showed Billy my character, a not so smart or wise human named Joron, who, with some feat work, wielded an oversized bastard sword. Billy had some concerns. So now we go into a script-like dialogue. Billy, so you're playing a male fighter who is big and dumb. Are you going to be able to roleplay a man properly? Me, yes. I've played male characters before with no issue. Billy, just know that I take RP encounters very seriously and I will hold you to character. Just make sure you keep up the act. I feel like I should point out that I prefer to play male characters in RPGs even though I'm female. I learned sort of quickly that NPCs / players tend to point out that you're a girl when you play one and want to RP as such. So it's easier to just be a man's man, which is a sad experience, I think, to have had, because that's not on the games.
Yeah.
That's shitty DMs and GMs sort of weirdly focusing on that aspect of your character.
So ridiculous.
Yeah, because if you're talking to a cleric or a rogue, you focus on that. You don't need to. Yeah,
exactly. What's gender got to do with it?
Gender has nothing to do with it. Exactly.
No,
exactly. So anyway, shortly after that conversation, they had their first session. Things were good at first. The party met up at some small tavern in some small town. Classic adventure start. Standard adventurer's fare. Jorom, cliche, perfect. It's how my very first Rolldark game started in a tavern. Jorom and Monk became quick friends, with Monk vowing to someday round out some of Jorom's sharp edges. The party left town for the big city to complete a quest that was given to them by the mayor. On the way out, the party got into their first ever combat encounter together. And oh dear lord, that first combat encounter. We were ambushed by a band of 4 to 5 highway robbers. Everybody but Monk and Sorcerer rolled horrible initiative, which meant most of the party was taking their turns after the enemies. Monk goes first and rolls his first dice of the game and their first dice of any RPG that they played. This is a brand new player. Crit failure. So,
Ooh.
so what the DM does is, after rolling from a crit failure table, Billy announces that the monk has hit himself below the belt, which causes him to be stunned for 4 turns. Which,
Right.
which, if you don't know, is pretty much an entire combat at that point. So that's his very first combat in any sort of scenario, and he's just instantly doesn't get to play.
That's a result that he drew from a critical failure table. 4 turns.
Yeah, well, apparently he rolled a d4 and it came out as 4. But
it's 4, right?
Just
that's over. Yeah,
that's one at max.
Right.
And even then, I think in this case, you just fudge it and you're like, critical failure.
It's the first, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't use critical failure tables unless I think there's like a really big combat, and I think it'll add something to. If you really badly mess up, then there will be a long-lasting effect. But it'll be a lasting effect, not an this is immediately going to ruin your experience of this combat.
Right.
Effect. Right. So apparently the monk's player was visibly upset, as he knows he's most likely out for the rest of the encounter. Billy announces that it's the sorcerer's turn, and his wife picks up the dice. So, quick side note. When I first met Sorcerer during the Session 0, she bragged about playing Pathfinder for years with Billy, and specifically mentioned how she only played Sorcerer because she knew the ins and outs of the class super well and loved big flashy fire magic. Somehow, with a combination of roleplay, asking Billy what her spells did, pondering the best location to use area spells, and theory crafting the ideal attack, the Sorcerer managed to make her turn last 21 real-world minutes.
Oh,
oh my god!
So
wow, what a start!
Realistically, you're aiming for 1 to 2 minutes tops, maybe 3 or 4 if it's like,
this
is a load of complicated options.
Yeah, this is something that really bugs me. If you're first on initiative, like fine, your turn is probably going to be the longest because you haven't had time to think about what you're going to do. Like everyone else should be thinking about what they're going to do. They should be going, right, my character's going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, and it's like it's common courtesy, surely.
And granted,
to be fast.
Combat will change, right? In certain scenarios, like, I was going to cast a fireball when everybody was gathered here, but now everyone's spread out, so I have to rethink. But you still are doing that while other people are taking their turns. So,
absolutely,
it's, like you said, common courtesy, and don't hold it up. There's a module that I don't use on Foundry, but some people do, where there's actually a massive timer, and it shows you how long your turn has been elapsing so far, and you can also set it to it's a 1 minute countdown. That doesn't always pan out because you have to calculate effects and stuff, but especially as you get later on in levels. But James, this is a first level combat.
Exactly, like bandits.
You don't have many options at first level. Like,
no,
even with Pathfinder, come on.
Exactly, it's way too long, and if it was a total beginner player, you'd expect the DM to help him out anyway, so it doesn't take this long.
Right. Like,
someone,
what do you want to do? You want to hurt the most people? Okay, here's how you do that. You want to get that one guy in particular? You want to heal? Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You can guide him through that. Just like, what do you want to achieve out of your turn?
I can help you mechanically with what you need to do. Yeah,
this would be the best way to go about doing that. You can also do this and this, but this is the best way to do what you've just said.
Right.
Yeah. But for it to be a player as well who was like bragging about, I'm so good playing a sorcerer. I know exactly what I'm doing. Okay, so
we should James, we should post this if we can post a link to our podcast in the comments of this. This thread.
Oh, that'd be great! Yeah,
we've analysed your game. Just so you know, we got your back.
It was only posted a day ago, so if we're real speedy, there'll still be people looking at it. So the sorcerer's spell managed to deal light damage. So after all that, bit of light damage to one of the enemies. After using an area of effect spell, one of the enemies, which led them to be taking their turns. The enemy's now taking their turns. So they've done their turns, and finally it was our our storyteller's
The
turn
fighter.
with a fighter with the oversized sword. Okay, so Joram swung his big sword and got a lucky roll, dealing max damage and outright one-shotting one of the highwaymen. With another lucky roll, he downed another, as they had the ability that let them attack multiple targets in a turn as long as they were next to each other. Billy paused the combat and asked for my character sheet. I handed it over to him, and after a few minutes later, he hands it back and says, "We need to talk." He brings me outside onto the balcony and starts lecturing about how power gaming is in poor taste, blah, blah, blah. I said that I wasn't trying to sneak anything by him or power game and had shown him my exact character sheet earlier in the week, which had been mentioned before.
Horror story.
Yeah.
This is terrible. Oh, God.
Yeah. Reminding him of the conversation we had previously where it was mentioned. Also, as a note, you are fully within the rules of the game allowed to wield a bastard sword that's a bit too big for you. You just take, I think it's a -2 in Pathfinder to your attacks. So it's already in game a drawback. It's already balanced in the game. Just a couple of lucky rolls and suddenly it's overpowered. Because it'll do a bit more damage. You're just less likely to hit. That's the trade-off. You get, but sometimes you'll get lucky and you get the hits and you get the kills. Okay. So he grumbled a bit. Billy grumbled a bit and said that oversized bastard swords would look too silly for a normal-sized fighter to wield, and his campaign. And he was a bastard, and his campaign was too serious to allow it. It ruins the game world I created. It doesn't. It doesn't ruin the game world.
It really doesn't.
No.
I mean, I'm sorry.
So excuse my ignorance. So is a bastard sword basically a massive claymore?
So it's technically supposed
a
to
different
be.
thing. Yeah,
it's like
a hand and a half sword.
Yeah, so like a big long sword, and you're supposed to be able to wield it with one hand or two. In this instance, the fight will have had to use it with two hands, which means they couldn't use a shield either. So that's another drawback to having to use an oversized weapon, is you don't get the shield either. So yeah, even more drawbacks and reasons for it to not be broken or power gamey, because your AC will be lower. So yeah, it's essentially just a big longsword, and I guess it will be this, as it's a giant or an oversized bastard sword. It will be a slightly bigger than normal bastard sword, probably for use.
Claymore is a more specific term. Claymores, at least historically, were used, even though they were cutting weapons, more like polearms. Kind of like glaives and pikes and such. A hand and a half sword or a bastard sword is actually meant to be wielded either way. In Pathfinder, of course, they require two hands for it, but the design of it, at least medievally historically, was that it could be used depending on what was needed in battle with either two swords for greater leverage, or two hands for greater leverage, or one hand just if you had to grip something else. So you still have the potential to swing it. If in this case it's a particularly large bastard sword, then it's what we used in other games, and like in D&D we call a great sword. So that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly. So they look too silly. It ruins the game world I created. So
that's ridiculous.
Rubbish. I offered. So then she offers to change weapons before the next session or roll a new fighter outright. But he declined, saying, "Just don't surprise me with anything else." He wasn't surprised. Very gaslighty at this point. Just don't surprise me. I didn't bloody surprise you. At this point, I'm uncomfortable looking up to the 6-foot angry GM and just want to get back inside, so I agree. The session ended shortly after with the rest of the highway robbers running away and nobody else getting a combat turn. So he's thrown his toys out the pram and also just ruined the encounter for everyone else by being like, fine, everyone else runs away. No, we're not playing this anymore.
Wow.
Oh, what a loser.
What a child. Okay, so at this point, I was honestly thinking about leaving the game as the first session left a pretty bad taste in my mouth. Very understandable, and probably what should have been done. But it's hard as well.
To this?
Oh yeah, there's more.
God almighty.
I suppose the rough thing about this is that they're colleagues. So short of leaving a job, this is maybe this is a reason. Like, unless you're already friends with them, maybe playing D&D with work colleagues is a risk.
It's a funny one, isn't it? Because like it's so sad when you hear these sorts of stories, especially because these are new players that have never played before, and this is their introduction to the game. is a DM that just wants to just control everything. It's to the point of like the finest detail at the sacrifice of the player's fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, what is
Exactly.
that all about? That's just like ridiculous.
Yeah.
It should be the other way around. You should be
Yep.
sacrificing yourself for their
Precisely.
fun.
Yeah. I guarantee not a single other player at that table had a problem with this sword.
No,
I bet when
No.
when their teammate
That sounds like fun.
managed to
You
kill
know,
two of them
it's
like
a classic trope.
Yeah.
You know, big dumb fighter, big dumb sword. It sounds like fun. Have at it.
It goes back to what I said before, actually, doesn't it? Where I said about the how some DMs still want to be a player, and they feel like when they're playing their game, they're playing too, and that's like their bandits were getting hurt, so how dare you hurt my bandits, kind of thing. It's like
and
that kind
that's
of weird.
The other thing. That's Sorry, Rob, but
No, go
that's
on.
the same aspect. I was just gonna say, it's even in that sense, sure, a DM does want to be a player and they get to be a player, right? Yes, we're also storytellers, we're also coaches, we're also narrators, but we're also, sometimes we just want to, show off a cool monster or a cool group of enemies or whatever. But the point of that is you can be a player without wanting to smash the board up with all your pieces. You don't have to be an aggressive combat player, right? You don't have to be like, well, my guy kills yours first. That's such like a almost petulant mentality, right?
Yeah,
That's what this DM sounds like he was doing. Like, oh, power gaming isn't really good. I'm sorry, you've had the worst start to the combat ever. One guy totally missed, totally flubbed, and can't do anything for the next 4 rounds. One person did minimal damage to the other groups, and then the first time that this other person comes in and manages to save the day, like there's so many different ways to spin this rather than, oh well, power gaming's in poor taste. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
It's fine. Power gaming's mostly fine.
So did she kick his head in at the end?
Unfortunately, not.
No.
So yes, at this point, I was honestly thinking about leaving the game after the first session, left a bad taste in my mouth. But I continued anyway, as I didn't want to deal with awkwardness at work. Like I said,
sure,
it would be horrible to deal with, I guess, unless you can find another way out. Like, oh, suddenly on a Tuesday night, I've got Pilates. I don't know. I go to the gym then now. I've got a personal trainer, and they've set me up sessions. I do bowls. I've taken up bowling, and I prefer it to D&D. Nice. Which I mean, in this game, totally understandable. Go bowls. Okay, so yes, but they really yes. So during the next session, the party finds a cave, and after a few puzzles, happens upon a chest with multiple magic items in it. The monk gets hand wraps that work with his abilities. Sorcerer gets a cloak that gives her an extra spell casting, and the others get something that helps their class. I find a magic ring. After making a particularly high spellcraft roll, the sorcerer tells me that the ring will improve my chance to hit by 2. This effect just so happens to negate the penalty I take from using an oversized weapon. So it does seem like the DM has maybe come around at this point and is like, okay, well, as a peace offering, I'll give you this thing that sort of negates that negative impact of your weapon. So obviously the fighter immediately puts on the ring very happily, and immediately their HP starts to drop, as starting from the finger, the ring that the arm was on starts to blacken. DM, Billy.
God's sake.
No.
It turns out the ring Joram so carelessly puts on is cursed. Maybe now he will think twice about equipping random items from a dungeon without getting them properly checked first. Then this person
Despite
out
the
of
high spellcraft rule.
Yeah, out of character. Why would Joram think that the ring was cursed? Not only did everyone else get a non-cursed item, the sorcerer rolled really high as well on that check and pretty confidently told me it was safe. I'm not sure what else I could have done here. Billy, this is a powerful cursed item. Sometimes you can't always trust your party to get things right. So I try to take the ring off, but of course it won't come off. Billy tells me that I have 2 minutes, real world time, to find a way. So we'll put a timer on this, but not 21-minute turn on combat. That's fine. Yeah.
Sure, right.
Oh, man.
To find a way to remove it, or Joram will die. In the end, everything that everyone tries doesn't work, and we end up cutting off the finger that the ring was on. Billy announces that because I am now missing a finger, I had to take an additional penalty to attack, as well as any skill that requires the use of that hand. Can it be restored or healed at a temple? I asked. Short answer, no. That cursed ring was so powerful that any attempts would fail for sure. Is there a magic item that is not cursed that I could have from the chest? No. I asked him later, out of character, if there was any solution other than cutting my finger off, but he dodged the question with nothing that your character could think up with his low intelligence.
Oh, God.
And that's it. That's how my character lost a finger permanently with no way of recovering it. So that is the end of the story.
He's a douche, that DM. Crikey.
I would quit work. I would stop working.
Yeah, right.
Change jobs.
Right.
Yeah.
I would find a new career. Wow.
I hope she was his boss.
Awful person.
That would be a great twist. It turns out I'm his boss. I found a way to fire him.
Yeah. That's going to make his life a living hell.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Your last paycheck was cursed. Looks like it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, there appears to be a permanent negative modifier to the amount you take home each month. That's a shame. With your intelligence, there's no way you could have prevented this, so don't worry.
Yeah, don't DM like this, people. Don't ever do it. Ugh.
Yeah, no way. And that is kind of a good place to put in our housekeeping, I suppose, in terms of Rolldark. So those of you who've never heard of us, we're a community of role players made up of 30 dungeon masters and over 360 active members in our Discord. Weekly, we have around 150 players engaged in games, all online at the moment, although we do, of course, offer private face-to-face bookings for DMs in your local area. So if you want to have a professional dungeon master who also happens to be a professional actor or voice artist, then we are the guys you need to come to. Check out our website, www.rolldark.co.uk, which is ROLLDARK.co.uk, and there you'll find all the details. We offer corporate games, private bookings, we've got public games that you can join as an individual solo player, and yeah, we also run a number of events throughout the year, in-person events, which are fully cosplayed as your character. So we had like a guy who won that last one. He was dressed as a full-on knight. He had a wicked helmet that he made out of tinfoil, full-on armor. It was awesome. You can check out our videos on YouTube. If you type in Rolldark Fest, you'll find them on there. And yeah, we're basically a huge community. So we're always posting new games online for people to join. So come on over. If you want to experience dungeon mastering by the professionals, we're the guys for you. And that, everyone, is all we have time for. Thank you to both my co-hosts, James and JC. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, follow us, and download. Go check out our website, www.broadsword.co.uk. So until next week, dear listeners, cherish every friendship forged, savor the stories you've shared, and let the magic of the tabletop guide you on your own extraordinary quests. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.